like to call the City of Fraser Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of February 2nd, 2023 to order. And please ask that you stand and join me at the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Next item on the agenda is roll call. Please note for the record that all the currently seated members are in attendance. We do have one vacancy on the board due to Mr. Logan's resigning, but there isn't a quorum with which to conduct business. The next item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to amend the agenda. Under 7, where it says 2022 Fraser Annual Planning Program, it should say Annual Planning / ZBA Report. And on the back, where it says Fraser City Council Meeting, January 12, 2023, that should be expunged.
Do you have a motion with those amendments?
I move to accept the agenda as amended, as I amended it.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Farina, seconded by Menendez to approve the agenda as amended. Is there anyone who is not clear on the amendments? All right, therefore, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Petitioners and members of the audience, the Zoning Board of Appeals, as herein created, is a body of limited powers. Where there are practical difficulties or unnecessary hardships in carrying out the strict letter of the Fraser Code, the board shall have powers in passing upon appeals to vary or modify any of the provisions of the code relating to the construction, structural changes in equipment, or alteration of buildings or structures so that the spirit of the code shall be observed, public safety secured, and substantial justice done. No variance in the provisions or requirements of the code shall be authorized by the board unless the board finds evidence that all the following facts and conditions exist. First, that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question or to the intended use of the property that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. Second, that such a variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, similar to that possessed by other properties in the same district and in the same vicinity. The possibility of increased financial return shall not itself be deemed sufficient to warrant a variance. Third, that the authorizing of such a variance will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and purpose of the Fraser Code or the public interest. And finally, that the condition or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not of so general or reoccurrent in nature as to make reasonably practicable the formulation of general regulation for such condition or situation. The item before us this evening is a public hearing. If anyone from the public wishes to be heard regarding the request at such time as we open the public hearing, please come up to the table, and if you would, please identify yourself with name and address so that we might have that for the record. With all of that said and done, we have, next item on the agenda is old business. And actually, I think we do have some old business to deal with, such as recommendations. No, we made recommendations to council. All right.
What about the new guy, or the new application?
Do we have, is the applicant for appointment to the zoning board here this evening?
For the Smoky Joe's, yes, that's.
No.
To sit on the board.
Excuse me for just a second. Sorry for my. Is Stephen Moore here? So we may not have anything to do. All right, so having no old business before us this evening, I'll move on to the next item, 6.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Lesage.
just one thought. He may not have been invited.
I'm not holding it against you. I'm just trying to keep track of. Yeah.
I understand. I'm just suggesting that maybe we reach out to the city manager or city clerk to ensure that they are invited to the next meeting. Because I've seen it before where they didn't know they were supposed to show up.
Yeah,
And-
I know they tried to contact him at the last meeting,
But-
I don't know what communication may have had with him between now, or between then and now. But yes, by all means, if you would reach out to Mr. Moore and ask him to appear at the next regular business meeting. Ms. Menendez?
Am I assuming we've had no additional applications?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Once again, moving on, the next item on the agenda is appeal number 22-05 regarding Smoky Joe's. An appeal for section 3585-2C pertaining to the permitted number and allowable area of signs for the community business district. Is the petitioner present? If you would, please come up to the table, and if you would identify yourself so that we once again could have that for the record.
My name is Joseph Mattia.
Thank you, Mr. Matteo. The first name was Mark?
Mark, yes.
All right, thank you. Would the staff please give us a background information regarding this request?
Sure. I'm on, right. Okay, the subject site, 16841 14 Mile Road, is in the Community Business District. The business on the subject site, I Signs and Designs, is requesting 2 variances from ordinance standards limiting the number and the sign of signage. The first requested variance is to exceed the number of allowable signs under section 32-85-2C. While the ordinance only permits 1 wall sign for each establishment, the applicant is requesting to add 2 additional wall signs, one on the side wall and the other underneath the existing 59.5 square foot wall sign, for a total of 3 signs. The second requested variance is to exceed the allowable wall sign area under the same ordinance provision, which states that the maximum permitted area is 32 square feet. The applicant has proposed a wall sign that, well, is 59.5 square feet. So that variance would be 27.5 square feet. As described in section 32-228A2, to determine if a variance should be granted, the ZBA must find evidence that all the following facts and conditions of A through D exist, or E or F exist independently. In this case, E and F do not apply, so we would just consider A through D. So A states that there are exceptional or extraordinary circumstances or conditions applying to the property in question, or as to the intended use of the property, that do not apply generally to other properties in the same zoning district. Their application states that the basis for this request is that the, quote, business has been granted a new liquor license, and they would like customers to be made aware of this available merchandise. However, in our view, this is not the type of circumstance that is intended to justify a variance. Obtaining a new license is neither exceptional or extraordinary for a business. Moreover, the fact that the store may now sell liquor could simply be incorporated into a new, smaller sign. B states that the variance is necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of a substantial property right, like that possessed by other properties in the same vicinity. And here, this larger and additional signage, in our view, is not necessary, since the applicant will be able to continue its business without the additional and larger signage. C states that authorizing such a variance will not be of a substantial detriment to adjacent property and will not materially impair the intent and purpose of this chapter or the public interest. And although it's not foreseeable that granting this variance would cause substantial detriment to adjacent properties, it's my position that applying different signage standards to similarly situated properties, as we would be doing here, would materially impair the intent and purpose of the ordinance. And then finally, D states that the conditions or situation of the specific piece of property or the intended use of the property for which the variance is sought is not of so general or recurrent in nature as to create a general rule for such condition or situation. And as I previously stated, it's not uncommon for a business in the city, whether a store or a restaurant, to sell liquor. So therefore, I'm concerned that if these variances were granted, that it would be foreseeable that many other businesses would request larger or extra signage. So since the applicant has not met, in our view, the ordinance standards for obtaining a variance, we would recommend that the ZBA deny this request. Thank you.
Other questions for the administration?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just by way of clarification, so it appears that there's an existing sign that is 59.5 square feet on the property, and the proposal is for 2 additional signs that are 23.4 square feet each. From my office's review, there was never a variance applied for that 59.5 square foot sign. It looks like there was a building permit pulled around the time that that sign may have been approved, but it's not clear necessarily what approval, how that came to be. So combining all of that square footage together, the proposal would be for a variance in total of 74.3 square feet, because it would be in excess of the 32 square feet with the already existing sign. I hope I didn't confuse anyone with that.
Say it one more time.
Well, I guess, and I appreciate so the existing sign that is on the building is in fact 59.5 square feet.
Yes,
We're not quite sure how that got there in excess of the 32 square foot permitted by ordinance.
that is correct.
The proposal is to add 2 additional signs, each one being, what was the number?
23.4 square feet each.
So if approved for all 3 signs, they would have,
They would be 106.3 square feet total and 74.3 square feet, which would be the variance. So that would be in excess of the 32 square foot.
so an additional 73 square feet of signs.
Yes, that is correct.
Right. I was going to get to that, but
Just-
I
I figured I'd-
appreciate heading off the question.
Clear it up up top.
Did, Mr. Farina, did that answer your question of requesting that it?
Well, she's saying 106.3, and in there it says 107.5 total square feet.
So as far as the notice requirements go, because it was noticed for more, there's nothing wrong with the way that it was noticed.
Okay.
Verifying the numbers, it's really
Yep.
106.3.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, questions for the administration?
Yes. How did we come up with 107.5?
That was just an error? Okay, so I guess that 107 was the 3 total signs. That's what I've been saying.
But as just stated, the total is 106.3. And I understand it's a number, and based on our public hearing notice, we are safe dealing with 106.3 when we advertise 107.5. And I didn't break out my calculator to check your math, but I trust that you have done so. So, as submitted, the request is for a total of 3 signs, which would total 106.3 square feet. Mr. Lippman, can you speak to the window signs and their compliance with the ordinance?
Well, that was just brought to my attention prior to this meeting, and so I haven't gone through that in detail, but I wasn't aware that that was an issue for this case in front of us. I think.
Would it be your professional opinion that the number of signs that are currently shown in the photographs there exceed 25% of the window area?
Yes, it seems that's true from those pictures, yes.
All right. Any other questions for the administration? Does petitioner have anything he wishes to add to the administration's presentation of facts and/or his application?
Yeah, I would definitely like to do so.
Go ahead.
All right, so this is my first time doing something like this, so I just prepared a little something, just to let you guys know where I'm coming from and why I believe I should get approved for this liquor license. Thank you, Councilman, in advance for listening and taking your time on my behalf. My name is Joseph Mattia, representing Smoky Joe's Tobacco and Liquor right across the street. I opened this store as just a beer and tobacco shop almost 4 years ago in a plaza known as one of the biggest eyesores in town, according to many of the local customers. The plaza is now at full occupancy for the first time in over 1 decade. Since then, with our commendable customer service, our attentive and devotional attention to care to all of our customers, keeping the store in pristine condition, donating to countless causes, as well as holding fundraisers for amazing policemen and many others in the city, we have had an incredible amount of support from the community. We have over 300 Google reviews with 5 stars. Smoky Joe's Tobacco and Liquor is the #1 rated tobacco shop in the entire county of Macomb. This was not an easy achievement. This past year, I was able to expand my store and obtain a liquor license. This is a huge step forward for not only myself, but for my family and the local community. I take pride in doing everything the right way, by the books and by the rules. While I'm simply applying to add a sign that says liquor onto my building, I have been informed that our storefront has reached the maximum square footage of signage. There are a few reasons why I believe this should be overturned and why I should be able to install a sign that says liquor. Prior to the expansion, I had been leasing the unit 16849, the unit our current store expanded into. If I did not expand the current store, I had the option in my lease agreement to sublease that space to anyone that wants to open a business in that plaza. If I decided to do so, that business, I believe, would definitely have gotten approved to add a sign. So it's only right that since I decided to use the extra space, instead of subleasing it, I should be able to put up my sign as well. When I moved into this plaza over 3 years ago, there were 2 enormous Eclipse Burger signs stretching from corner to corner, covering both of my facings that are facing Garfield and 14 Mile Road, with arrows pointing to the end of the plaza where the burger restaurant was. That all being in addition to their store sign that also stretched from corner to corner, along with their pole sign and a flag sign. I'm misunderstanding how they got approved for all those signs while they're not even leasing the unit that I'm in. Love Sushi is a great addition to the plaza and the community, but even their sign is almost twice as big as mine, though my store is almost twice as large in square footage. Even a few years ago when I first opened, I put a flag sign that said vape near the sidewalk. And I received a phone call that weekend saying if I do not pull a permit for the flag, I will receive a ticket. Yet since, there has been a sushi flag in the same spot for over 1 year with zero complication. I really feel like I'm getting targeted for following the rules. I'm simply doing my due diligence and pulling all required permits for anything that I do. I was only 25 when my dad helped me open this tobacco shop. My plans are to be here for the next 30 years and retire in this store. I have fully invested myself financially, physically, and mentally into this store, and without a big liquor sign, I will not be able to reach the full potential of Smokey Joe's and continue to contribute to the community. Please help me avoid this by not crippling my business with the most crucial thing possible, not having a liquor sign. It does not make sense to me on why I got approved to add a liquor license and approved to remodel the store and take over the next unit, but I'm having such a difficult time adding the liquor sign. I wholeheartedly believe I deserve to add this sign and continue to do clean business and service this amazing community. Thank you all, God bless you all, and I also have a little stack that I printed of amazing Google reviews from all the locals in the community, amazing Facebook posts from all the locals in the community, from how we've helped them and all the amazing things we've done. If you guys would like to take a look at them, I can definitely hand them down.
Other questions for the petitioner? Mr. Burley.
Yeah, on your, for your requests for a hardship, you put that the customers to be made aware of this available merchandise, that you have a liquor license.
Yes, sir.
Now, on the strip mall sign, there's a big sign that says liquor. Isn't that promoting your sign saying liquor?
It definitely is promoting. Originally, that sign said Smokey Joe is the name of my store. The reason I took that out and put the sign that says liquor is because of this situation. I needed to do something quick to at least have something out there to let customers know that we have liquor. When people are driving by, or when any one of you are driving by a plaza, you're not looking at the signs at the sign, you're looking at the building. No one's gonna look at that sign. People are gonna see liquor right under Smokey Joe's. It is extremely crucial and important that this can be done.
Well, one other question. What happens if you were to sell pizza? Would you request another sign that says pizza?
A pizza license did not cost me $300,000 like a liquor license did. This is like a whole other business. Adding liquor is not something small. It was a huge process. It was a 2-year process. It almost didn't happen. So, no, I wouldn't add a sign that says pizza, but liquor is a different ballgame. It's very hard to obtain a liquor license. There is no liquor store in this city that doesn't have a big liquor license on the building. Shots Market, Sal's Liquor, they all have very big liquor signs, and I don't see a reason why I shouldn't be able to put up a sign as well to let everyone driving by know that we do have liquor.
Ms. Menendez.
Respectfully, sir, I don't think anybody's targeting you, but if there's a set of rules that we're supposed to comply with, and I understand you're new, but that Smokey Joe, the Smokey Joe sign right there is not in compliance. I believe you're trying to stay in compliance, but by looking at that, and I've been out at your site, I had questions to things that were not approved prior. The neon lighting, I was according to the ordinance, it says it should have been approval through planning. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me. The signage taking up the amount of window space, not approved. I mean, you have signage everywhere, and you have to understand that if something like this is allowed, that gives the right to everybody else to try and attempt to do the same thing. So the rules are put in for a reason, but to have so many things not in compliance, that's a problem to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I understand your whole thing, you want to promote liquor. And as far as what the other people have, if they're in compliance or not, or you feel that they're not in compliance, you have the right to express your wishes or your thoughts to the building department for them to look into it. Again, it would require going back and looking and see if they had a variance and as to why they got that variance and as to was there a hardship. That's the whole crux of this. There has to be a hardship regardless of how much money you spent, regardless of how great your business is, and regardless how much you're trying to do everything right, there's certain things that you have to comply on. So I just want to alert you to those items. I have some issues with what I see here right now.
So, thank you. And
Excuse me, would it be a fair compromise if the window signs were down? The window signs are taken off, and just have it, see inside the store, and then maybe have a smaller liquor sign up on the wall as a compromise?
And I was going to state thank you for that. And with all due respect, the current sign that's up right now, my sign guy, Alan from Fast Signs, apparently went through the city, pulled all the permits, did everything legit. I would like to see the permit if I could, because it would have been in zero interest in him to apply for a sign, get approved for that square footage, and apply a sign that's larger than that square footage. It would have no benefit to him at all. Literally zero. If anything, we would have to have him take it down, and he would have to pay to remake us a sign. So I was not aware that that sign exceeded, the square footage. Yeah, and as far as the window signs go, even that, honestly, I did not know that I couldn't put my own signs on the windows. I didn't know that that was considered signage. I can definitely remove most of those signs. Having liquor on my building is more important than all of those window signs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can only take up 2 or 3 signs. I can literally erase everything, get everything out of there. Just the liquor is definitely more crucial for me than any other sign on that building.
Mr. Farina?
What if you took all those signs out and you put a neon sign that said liquor on?
Well, the biggest thing is that even with like a lot of liquor companies, for example, with Hennessy, with Jameson, in order for me to get certain case deals, in order for me to get certain products, they require me to put a sign on the window or, something of that nature. So, like I said, I can definitely remove, I can only use 2 of the windows if that's what you guys would be happy with, if that's what you want me to do. But as far as removing all of them, I mean, if that's the only thing, if that's the only way we can do it, then I have no choice. I will definitely be willing to remove all of them in order to put that liquor sign
I'm
up.
not saying that that I am in favor of what you're proposing, okay? Because the ordinance tells us, the law tells us, we're giving you the right to break the law, is what it has.
Yes.
We have to be given certain reasons for that, it has to be justified for you to do that.
Yes, sir.
Or anybody could just go out and break the law. What I'm saying is, if you took that out and put, liquor in neon signs, where some of those other signs are, and take your signage down to what it's supposed to be, that would be allowable as part of your 50% coverage.
I see what you're saying, but to be completely honest with you, a majority of my customers that are probably going to see me are going to be sitting at that light right down the street. And I don't think they're going to see a sign on the window that says liquor. And like I said, if any one of you drive by one liquor store that does not have a sign that says liquor on their building, a big neon sign, a big bright sign that says liquor, I mean, every liquor store does.
Well, if I may,
Yes, sir.
can you combine the liquor sign in with the Smoky Joe's?
I mean, if that's an option, is that an option, Mark? And is that something we can do?
Well, it would
I thought of that as well. Would you have to reconstruct the sign?
Yeah.
you would have to, you've added a new aspect of business to your operations here. A new product, a new product. If you had the liquor license when you moved in, my presumption is that you would have worked the word liquor into the Smoky Joe sign. The same way you worked in tobacco, vape, beer, and lotto. The fact that you did them consecutively versus concurrently is not necessarily justification to get another sign now that adds in that additional aspect of your business. do you, and that's the point of that, do you, in fact, occupy more than one tenant space within the building?
Yes. When I first came here 3.5 years ago, I leased 16841, which is my current store, as well as 16849, which was an empty unit right next to Smoky Joe's. My plans at the beginning were to sublease that unit to another tenant. That's the terms I have in my lease contract, is that I can sublease that unit for an additional charge for whatever I was paying and, make a little bit of extra money that way. Instead of doing that, we were fortunate enough to, be able to obtain a liquor license. And instead of subleasing it, we did a huge project, knocked down my cooler wall, and moved everything back into the next unit. So I didn't just add liquor, I remodeled into the following unit and added liquor as well.
Mr. Littman, if this shopping center is in the CBD zoning district, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
All right. If this business were in fact located in the office or commercial neighborhood commercial district, and you had a tenant that had multiple spaces, they would in fact be allowed some additional signing. Is that correct?
I believe so. I would have to look it up, though,
Okay.
to make sure.
But being in the CBD, that same language does not appear in the ordinance.
Correct.
All right.
That is correct.
But I would state that allowance is for another half sign or an additional 16 square feet if it were in the CN district. And it still needs to be a single sign, not an additional, it's additional area, not additional signage.
Yes, correct. I agree.
Are there other questions for the petitioner? This is appeal number 22-05. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be heard regarding this request? Gentlemen, if you would, please have a seat back in your chair so that we can allow the public to speak. I appreciate it.
Council, good evening. My name is Adam Walsh. Address is 41840 King Edward Court, Clinton Township, Michigan. I also have an address at 17653 Adolph, Fraser. I'm the owner of Knuckleheads Comedy. I am also a new board member of Breaking Barriers, a youth program that runs currently over at Fraser Star Lanes and out of the Carnes Community Center in Mount Clemens. My family's been in Fraser for over 45 years. My dad was head custodian at the high school. Father-in-law currently serves in that role at the high school, Dan Hogan. My best friend was was the founder of the Curve Hair Color Studio right here across the street in the same plaza as Shots. I live at 8 and Canal most of the time. I drive by 8 smoke shops, 7 gas stations, 3 party stores, and 2 7-Elevens just to come to Joey's store. It's not just a store or a sign. I know if the fair's going on and if any one of my 15 nieces or nephews get lost or my son, they can go to Joey's and he's going to get a hold of me. I know my kids are safe there. I know my family's safe there. Every other storefront that's on a corner in Fraser has 2 signs, one on either side. CVS has it. Speedway's got their giant signs. Fraser Optical has theirs, both sides of the building, on one that's not even on a corner. Joey does great work in the community. He is, in a short 3 years, and can become an even bigger staple in this city. I run many benefit shows. A lot of them are at the Rusty Nail. I'm sure you guys have seen my flyers around. I'm sure you've seen my shows. I've ran a couple at the Infinity Hall at the same time. Anytime I need something out of Joey, he's willing to give it to me. Doesn't matter what it is. Gift card, basket, anything I need for any one of my fundraiser shows. Mr. Littman stated this won't be a hinder on his business. I do believe that it can be a hinder on his business. Due to the simple fact there's 2 other liquor stores within walking distance, it being Shots that has their signs and also Sal's who has enough signage in the front as well. However, everybody that's local in Fraser knows, okay, Joey sells liquor. But how many thousands of people come to this city in them 4 days that don't know Joey sells liquor now? You can't tell me that won't be a hindrance on his business through times of the year, especially when Steffens Park opens back up for birthday parties and whatnot. There's a hindrance. Mr. Farina, you asked him if he would remove his entire sign in lieu of just putting a neon sign that said liquor there. Would you ask Shots to do that? Or Sal's? Or CVS? Or anybody like that? I'm just asking he gets the same opportunities in this city that everybody else can get. There's a little bit of a variance or there's a happy median that can be made here. I say that we need to find it between him and the city. Joey just, to you guys, may just be a business or somebody that just came in here. He's a lot more to that to a lot of the residents in this city. I'm asking that you guys just give him the variance. Find a happy median somewhere. Because he means more to this city than you guys realize, than just coming in and opening up. Because when that other building was still up for rent that he could have gave to anybody, he also could have closed down and left anywhere, but he loves this city. Like I said, I passed by 8 other smoke shops just to drive to Joey. It might just be for a couple lotto tickets. It might be for a couple Red Bulls and a bag of chips. I probably waste more gas driving down to him than what I actually spend in his store. I just ask that you all find a happy median with this, please, and thank you. Thank you for your time.
If I may, one question. So the CVS, the Rite Aid, the Shots, I don't want to go with Shots, but the CVS, the Fraser I, those are, in fact, corner lots. They are on the corner of 2 streets.
Okay. I also bring, okay, but he's on the corner of 2 streets too. And then I also bring up,
Which street does he have access to?
there's 14 in Garfield. There's entrances at both of those
Does he have
driveways.
frontage on Garfield?
Huh? You can't see that from Garfield at all?
Does he have frontage on Garfield?
I believe so. You can see him from Garfield. What would you be, what if you want to call it pure frontage of Garfield, sure, it's Fraser Star Lanes and the oil shop. But before that, if you can't see Smokey Joe's from Garfield, we need to get something fixed here. Because everybody can see that from Garfield.
Okay.
He does have a corner lot there.
The point I was trying to make is the ordinance does have allowance for additional signage for corner lots that have frontage on 2 intersecting streets. This site does not. Well, the Fraser Star Lanes, I believe the yellow line on the screen is the property in question. It doesn't touch Garfield. It has no frontage on Garfield.
Okay.
So those provisions in the ordinance that would allow him a second sign, the way that Walgreens is allowed to have a second sign, wouldn't apply, or the oil change shop. So there is a distinction between the two. It may warrant additional signage by action of the board, but not by application of the ordinance, because he doesn't meet the criteria within the ordinance that allows for that additional signage. So I guess I just want to point out that some of the examples that you cited are in fact corner lot.
And I can completely understand where you're coming from.
Okay.
And all I'm saying is I could understand if you were saying it was something like Walsh and Fallman over there on Utica, where they don't get seen from like 14, for instance, versus Joey, who gets seen from 14 and Garfield. That's all I'm saying. That's only my argument too.
Okay.
I mean, more than 90% of his building is seen from both corners.
Okay.
But thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at the public hearing? Have we received any written correspondence regarding the public hearing notices? All right, thank you. Once again, this is appeal number 22-05. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to be heard? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing, bring it back up to the board. Ms. Menendez.
What is this normal procedure when we find things that are not in compliance? When a variance is before us for one issue, but we find other things that are not in compliance? How do you get that rectified? Because to me, I couldn't give a variance when other things haven't been dealt with. Planning Commission hasn't approved certain things. There's additional signage that's really not supposed to be there. I mean, sure, if we were going to try and approve it, you could put conditions on it. I get that. But there seems to be quite a few here.
Sure. So as it pertains to the 59.5 square foot, the existing wall sign, that would need a variance to remain, to be within.
The original one.
Yes. Yep. As it pertains to the window signs,
Code enforcement.
I mean, I think as we can all take a look at the ordinance, those do not match the letter of the ordinance, so those are also not, I would say, without doing a deeper dive into it, likely not in compliance either.
Under P and Q of 32-85. And the accent lighting under 3285C. Before we even get to the square footage issue of the additional ones.
Excuse me, could there be an agreement with this board here on the square footage of the existing sign being over? That we approved tonight on it?
You have to address your question to the chair, sir.
It would be my preference that we give the applicant an opportunity to take a look at the full compliance of the sign ordinance with his facility and basically let him come back to us with a plan of what the overall signage package pattern is going to be at the facility. You know, there is some provision in the ordinance for small signs in the windows, 3-inch lettering and less. There is allowance for signage in the windows of up to 25%. As was asked and discussed here, there may be a way to combine the signs together such that you're not asking for two variances, one on the area and one on the number. And as you say, you know, negotiate a solution is certainly possible, but this probably isn't the venue to try and do that in total. That it would be better for the applicant to look at the ordinance, possibly meet with city staff to go over a proposal to say, all right, we're going to do X, Y, and Z, and this is what the final picture is going to look like, and then bring that back to us for consideration. And that would be my preference rather than, well, you know, can you make it 28 square feet instead of 30 square feet? Can you make it, you know, move the liquor up so that it touches the other sign and becomes one sign versus two? Or, you know, how many of the window signs are going to come down and what is that going to look like? That would be, in my opinion, the way that it should be approached, rather than trying to do that in a public hearing at a public meeting. Not that I don't want transparency in what we do, but getting into all the details, I can't look at the picture and tell you what the square foot area is of the windows. That's something that should be field evaluated, and investigated, and reported on, rather than trying to eyeball it from the dais here. Other discussion, Ms. Menendez, are you?
Yes.
Okay,
No, I have a question.
go ahead.
So hypothetically, he could postpone. He doesn't lose his right to his appeal. We don't have to renotice again, correct?
As long as the request comes back with a
Underneath.
lesser than what. was
Underneath,
advertised.
right?
Yes, and as long as the postponement's to a date certain.
Right. Okay.
And officially, he doesn't get to postpone, we get to
Yes.
postpone.
Yes.
Correct. I'm sorry. But the postponement, we don't have to renotice.
Correct.
Okay.
Member Lesage.
Yes, I would like to agree with the chair and Ms. Menendez that I would like you didn't express it explicitly, but I would prefer a solution, a relook at this and come back with a compliance, and rather than piecemeal this, because in my experience, piecemealing these things at a public meeting always ends up with an unintended consequence that is hard to unravel later. Maybe not always, but you end up not knowing exactly what you agreed to when the public vote is taken, and I would prefer that there is an actual, this is what we want to do. That way, the petitioner says, this is what I'm proposing, the board can agree or disagree, and then later, we've all agreed on the facts that this is what we all agreed to. And it's clear and it's concise. So that would be my preference. And I won't really speak to the Love Sushi sign and the Eclipse Burger. Those were very large. I don't have any idea how those happened. And I would be curious to see what transpired, but that's a different matter. But I am curious about that. Thank you.
Mr. Farina.
I'm in lockstep with you guys on this. If I were forced to vote tonight, I would deny. And, I think that there's things that need to be done before we take a vote on this.
Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Ms.
I got a
Menendez.
question first. Do we need the applicant to agree to a postponement? What if he says he doesn't want a postponement? Then we just vote the other way? Okay.
Go ahead.
It's up to the board, but you don't necessarily, if the board wants to postpone, the board can, but it's up to the board.
Okay. I'm going to make the motion to postpone because I believe that gives the applicant the opportunity to go back, take a look at everything, take the ordinance, bring it to the appropriate people, come in compliance, and come back to us. You're not denied at this point. You have an opportunity to rectify things that aren't right, and then come back to us. So I make the motion to postpone to our next meeting, which is,
Let me ask a question first.
No, she's in the middle of a motion. You can question after, if you don't mind.
be
I need to get-
postponed until, will a month be enough time for you? Okay. All right, to March 2nd?
I second.
We have a motion by Menendez and supported by Burley to postpone action on appeal number 22-05 until the meeting of March 2nd to give the petitioner an opportunity to put together a total sign package for the business. Is there any discussion on the motion? Did you get your question answered? I would also suggest or ask that the matter of the existing 59 square foot wall sign be further investigated at that time as well, so that we can get a better understanding of, and/or any previous signage that was there and any action that was taken to approve those. so that we get a clear understanding of what is permitted, has been permitted in the past.
If I may, I'd like to see it for the entire plaza, because
Yeah, if there's been
we
other
need to be-
variances granted.
we need to be consistent.
All right. We have a motion to postpone action on Appeal 22-05. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
You need a roll call.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries on a 5-1 vote, with Member Chimeni voting against. I look forward to seeing your proposal next month, hopefully organized closer to compliance and a full package. Thank you very much for your time this evening. The next item on the agenda is new business, the 2022 Fraser Planning/ZBA report as modified in the agenda. Is there any presentation, Mr. Littner, or anything, or is this just for our noting and filing?
Yeah, sure. I can talk about it for a second. So our firm put together this annual planning report, which summarizes last year's development reviews, what happened with them, the appeals, and then also looking ahead to major issues that we're looking to tackle. So, as I said, this was approved last night by the Planning Commission, so it's going forward to council.
Right. The Zoning Board of Appeals has a statutory requirement to report to council the activities in the previous year. Does this report meet that reporting criteria?
It does, and so the action for the board tonight would be, if everything looks good, there aren't any adjustments to be made, to make a motion to submit that to council.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Menendez?
A quick question. In the future, is there any way to add the business name? We always have the address, but sometimes it's much easier to go back and look, because when we identify things, it's usually by the name. I mean, the address is there, but it makes it much easier if there's the company name there, or who the variance is for. Thank you.
Ms. Menendez, do you feel that that's necessary before sending this on to council?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel that that is necessary before sending this on to council?
If it doesn't cause too much undue hardship, you know what I mean? Is this already in the, all you have to do is add the name, right? It's already in a program? Yeah, if you could, appreciate it. Thank you.
And it has to go back to the planning commission.
Oh, it does have to go back to planning? Why? For a change in the name?
Planning Commission made a motion to send to council last night.
They made a motion to send the ZBA report to council?
I believe it's a combined
This is
report,
a
right?
combined
Oh,
It's a-
okay.
It's a
report.
combined planning and zoning report.
There's one ZBA action on here.
Is there a statutory time frame by which we have to submit the report?
No,
I think it
It's
just
just
says
it's just an
annually,
annual-
yeah,
yeah.
annually we have to do something.
So if you change the names, it would have to go back to planning to reapprove?
Is to the report to council, once the name has been changed to the Fraser Annual Planning Commission /ZBA report.
So we have a motion by Farina, seconded by Menendez, to forward the annual report on to city council. Is there any further discussion on the item? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next item on the agenda is Planning Commission liaison reports.
Okay.
Mr. Farina.
The Planning Commission met last night, and I I brought to you the proposed city ordinance change that we had recommended from the previous meeting where we put alternate members for the ZBA on the board. We had to rescind that motion because nobody told us that we had to have a public hearing on that ordinance change. And so we rescinded that motion and then made a motion to have a public hearing. It was a little bit embarrassing. I wasn't real happy about that with our city. Secondly, there was a site plan there for Devon Storage. They want to add, I think it's 5, 6 new units onto that current building. And they did not give us a full package, and we tabled that until we could get a full package, and they have to get the fire department. There was an issue with turning radiuses with the amount of coverage that they're creating there. It's all hard surface now, but they're going to take up all that hard surface with buildings now. And can the fire equipment get in and out of that area safely, in order to do what they need to do? So we sent that back to them, and we sent it to the city engineers to look at. It looks from the schematic that we got that they are covering up some egress doors. And by code, you have to have an egress door every 250 feet. And so we asked them to look at that also. So that's on hold. That was the only item of business that we had last night.
If you don't, excuse me for where is Devon Storage?
Utica Road. The one,
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't recognize the newer name. All right,
was
thank you.
sold. They are a national company, by the way. They have 8 different facilities in the state of Michigan. The other thing that we asked them to look at was they wanted to put a metal sheeting on the building, and our ordinance requires stone and/or brick to be anything facing out. And so they agreed to also look at that. So there's a number of items that are still open on that, too.
All right.
That's it. If you have any questions, I'll try to field them.
Any questions on the Planning Commission report? Do we need a motion to accept?
No.
No, all right. Next item on the agenda is public participation. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to address the board? Recognizing no one that wishes to address the board, I will move on to the next item, which is approval of minutes from the January 5th, 2023 meeting. We were provided copies of the January 5th minutes. Is there a motion? Mr. Lesich.
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 5th, 2023 Zoning Board of Appeals.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Lesich, seconded by Burley to approve the minutes of January 5th. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, minutes are approved. Members' comments and items of interest. Member Burley.
Did the 2 members get approved by city council formally?
No.
Has council had their February meeting yet?
No.
No.
That's next.
So my guess would be no. It hopefully is on their agenda
I think it is.
next week. It was not on their January agenda. Ms. Farina.
Yeah, there were several issues that I brought up last month. I brought up a planning also last night that I would expect to see under old business from now on until they get answered. One was the training session for, that you guys are gonna put on, when that's gonna happen with, between you and the lawyers, figure that out, please. And the other was the sign ordinance that we talked about. You didn't tell these guys that that's going forward this year, and they're going to be looking at new sign ordinance.
And also, I did reach out to Don today about the training session, and I guess he's been trying to communicate with the city manager. And I called her today again and didn't hear back from her, but I'm going to be in the office on Monday, so I'll knock on her door on Monday.
Ms. Menendez?
Mr. Chair, at one point, there was a draft of the sign or updates for the sign ordinance. Somehow it never made it to council, is my understanding. Do you have a copy of that? Do you remember that? It was back.
When Maryland was,
It's on. Am I not? Oh, okay. Sorry. Would you happen to have a copy of that? I know one existed, like years and years ago.
Right, so, well, the sign ordinance is part of the zoning ordinance. It officially, draft language of that would be presented to the planning commission, and they would have a public hearing on that proposed zoning ordinance text amendment, and then forward their recommendation to city council, who would ultimately have the authority to pass or deny the ordinance amendment. Mr. Farina, do you recall, has the planning commission had public hearings on the proposed?
it was sent to city council, so my assumption is yes. My problem is, Roseanne asked me the same thing. I gave my copy to Paul when we started working on this, and I didn't receive it back, and of course, Paul is gone, and I do not have my copy to look at. We're searching for a copy of the proposed, and there was a lot of extensive work that I thought was,
Yeah,
Oh, so Paul has it, though? All right, well, I work 15 feet away from Paul, so I'll follow up with him about that too, but
yeah.
my understanding is from the city manager is that you guys wanted to start from scratch. And- But maybe, but we
I
can.
mean, we had to go out and do canvassing and go out and get signs that we liked and signs that we didn't like.
Okay.
We had to vote, we went through a negotiations of what kind of signs we wanted to see in the city.
Okay.
If we want to start from scratch, that's fine. It's just gonna cost a lot more money to do.
Right.
On time as well.
Right.
Well, and without, if in fact there was a public hearing and a motion to forward it on to council, well, that doesn't have to, if we keep the same language, that doesn't have to happen again. There's no time limit, as I understand, on a public
That's a
hearing.
good point.
But if in fact that action did take place, I do not have minutes from the planning commission from the
No,
last couple of years.
my question was, do you have that draft?
I do not know that I would, but there should be an official copy that should be with the minutes of the planning commission, I would think. Especially if there was a public hearing, there should be a public hearing notice about it and copies attached, so. So I would ask the administration and/or the clerk's office and/or the attorney's office to see if they might have records. But if in fact that is, all of that happened and it was just never acted on by council, you're at the last step if you want to keep the same language.
Okay,
And it just has to be reintroduced to council.
right, it was like 5 mayors ago, so.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
I understand it was. Okay. Any other items from the board? Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion?
Second?
A motion by Farina, second by Lessig to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.